In the past week alone, two federal MPs left the Conservative Party, one even joining the Liberals, while a CPC panel reacted to the outrage sparked by a Liberal MP criticizing his own party. How can we make sense of these breaks from party loyalty and the media storm they caused? To find out more, I spoke with political scientist Alex Marland, who just co-authored a new book on party loyalty in Canadian politics. He explained that politicians today face increasing pressure to remain loyal to their party.
I'm not so sure that everybody fully realizes just how much pressure there is on politicians to go along with each other. Because if you go out and you say something that is different than your party, then your colleagues are going to say, what are you doing here? Like, you are causing problems, or maybe that person looks good for saying something positive that or different than the leader. But then what happens is everybody else looks bad for just towing the line. So the pressures to go along with other members of your caucus are immense. And so all of these things combine. So you have institutional, political, technological, and social pressures. And these forces cause people to, for the most part, end up siding with their party.
According to Professor Marland, this reflects a shift in what party loyalty means. In the past, MPs could speak much more freely, but were still expected to vote with their party in the legislature, while today they're under growing pressure to also stick to the party message, a trend largely driven by the rise of social media.
In the 1980s, you could say something at a local event, and maybe there would be a local reporter who would pick it up and publish it in a local newspaper, and nobody else really would notice. Nowadays, what happens is if you're at a local event at any place in Canada, somebody can have a camera phone, and so they pull out a device, and all of a sudden now they're taking images, and those images are and video recordings and audio can end up going viral. And so you end up having a situation where the party intervenes. And so this is technologically driven. This is not what happened in the 1980s, and this is what is happening in the 2020s.
As a result, party leaders and their staff hold more and more power, controlling the party's message and image, a dynamic that can have harmful effects on representative democracy.
When political parties are so powerful, it really limits the individual representation of people to speak on behalf of their constituents or their own convictions or their own experiences. It turns them into party mouthpieces because they end up simply echoing and repeating what it is that the leader's office wants them to say. And for the most part, what happens is the leader and the leader's entourage have a lot of power over elected officials. Political staff have more power than they used to. They're more present. They're more engaged. They're constantly on their phones, engaging with others and moving things forward. And they were always important, and they are important. But what we're seeing is less power for backbench elected officials, more power for unelected political staffers working around the leader.
This centralization of power around the party leader helps explain why certain MPs decide to exit caucus, as it's a common theme given by MPs who decide to switch or leave their party.
One of the common themes that we found was really support for the leader, proximity to the leader, comfort level with where the leader is taking things. So it makes sense, right? The leader is so important in the party. If you feel very close to the leader, you are going to find ways to align with the leader. If you don't really like the leader, or there's something going on there, you have a distance, then your chances of being a maverick, rebelling against things, or possibly leaving the party increase a lot.
I finally asked Professor Marland what changes could allow MPs to better challenge this growing concentration of power around party leaders and their staff.
In many ways, backbenchers need to learn to assert themselves, figure out ways to really work together to get power and influence. And a good example of that is demanding that party leaders, demanding that premiers and prime ministers have an in-camera session at caucus meetings where the staff are told to clear the room. And there's no staff whatsoever there, so that parliamentarians can speak freely in front of the leader. But as long as staff are present in those meetings, it's very hard for parliamentarians to feel like they can speak frankly, because sometimes they might be critical of the staff themselves. And, the staff are involved in hiring in promotion decisions or resource decisions and other things. So this is an example of how if you have backbenchers work together, they can have more influence than if they just work by themselves. In my view, every Canadian legislature would benefit from one or two people who were elected as an independent. I don't mean people kicked out of their party. I mean people who are genuinely elected as an independent, who can say things that people in the political party themselves may not be willing to say.